Hello, viewers from home. You are watching yours truly, the working class hero, Bobby Rossi. I am alongside the natural truth, T. Phoenix, and we're here to present to you a recap of Hype TV. I personally like to call it Chewing the Fat.
You would.
I would. We're here, we're going to talk about what's been going on in the locker room, what's going on in the ring, what's going on with management. There's a lot of things that we could touch on. We could talk about the fact that your blowout now looks like a breeze out, but that's neither here nor there. What we're here to talk about is the action. We're here to talk about where things are going, who's got the strap, and who might be taking it from said person.
You got all this. You got these jokes written down somewhere? Is this going to be like Bobby Rossi's comedy hour? Is that what this is going to be?
Well, I mean, when we wrestle, it's almost like RWA's comedy hour.
All right. Well, let's get down to business. Unless you have a few more jokes to tell.
No, that'll be all for now. Matter of fact, instead of me shooting off jokes, T, why don't you tell the folks what you have on your mind? What do you want to talk about first?
Well, as far as Hype as a whole, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Of course, you guys are seeing this on public access television, so it's not exactly live. Well, there was a great deal of action going down.
Sure was.
You know, let's take it from the top. Student body, and they're kind of on the rocks, so to speak. They suffered a loss to the Natural Born Killers, and don't get me wrong, accomplished tag team in their own right. They've had classic matches with the likes of the Suicide Kings, among others. But they picked up the upset win over Student Body, and it seems as though the Student Body is crumbling right before our very eyes.
Well, you hinted at something very important, T. I mean, you do have the dissension between the two tag members. They're not nearly on the same page. And the Natural Born Killers, although they haven't had a huge presence in the RWA, the times that they have been here, they have been making impacts. And more recently, as opposed to before, their most recent matches, they are bringing intensity, they are succinct, they are synchronized, and clearly the Student Body isn't. I think since having lost at Dynasty, they've not been able to get on the same page. It's visually proof.
Well, tag team wrestling, obviously, I'm no stranger to it, and I've been involved in my share of controversy. In tag team wrestling, no less anywhere else. It becomes frustrating when somebody else isn't pulling their weight. Jack Connor seems to have all the answers, but he doesn't have the right questions. And it seems as though Nick Varsity, who has been somewhat quiet in the past, is now becoming more and more frustrated. I know I keep using that word a lot, but you can see it all over his face, and it seems as though maybe he wants a stronger voice as part of the team, and this isn't Connor's team anymore. This is, you know, Nick's been at this almost a year now. His rookie season is almost over. He's learned a great deal, and it seems as though he wants to use what he's learned to help the team, and Connor may not be allowing this. Now, I myself, I'm a fan of Student Body. I really am. And I hate to see another team fall by the wayside, as we've seen so many times in the RWA. So I'm hoping, let's see, if they can keep it together. And, well, I would suggest facing the Influence may not be a good idea on their behalf.
Well, I guess we can't fault you for being slightly biased with that assessment. But, you know, Nick Varsity he's been adamant about studying. He's been adamant about focusing on what he could do to better himself and the team. I feel as though Connor has been overlooking a few things. You know, it's easy to get ahead of yourself in the ring. I'm not going to talk because, well, I don't wrestle. But moving right along, you know, hopefully the Student Body can get their act together. But I'll tell you, the tag team division has been heating up.
It certainly has.
There's more and more competition every week. It seems like these units are just, you know, coming out of the woodwork.
You got the Influence. You've got the Influence. You've got the Influence. You've got the Influence.
You are the size of 4 people, but that's not 2 to 3 teams.
Is that the last joke?
Maybe.
You've got the Epidemic. You've got the Hollywood Balls. You've got OSI.
There are other teams.
There are other teams.
There
You've
are
got the Influence. You got the Influence. Did I mention them?
You did. You mentioned some of the stronger tag teams, but there is excellent singles action going on as well. Both the junior heavyweight division and the TV title division are starting to heat up. It seems as though management wants to put a lot of four-way dances together to see who these #1 contenders are.
You're not a big fan of that, are you?
Well, you know, again, I mean, when you have a contract for a one-on-one matchup and it turns into a four-way, that really throws off your entire game plan. And, well, not to be biased, but my confidant, Damian Black, has suffered the brunt of that the most.
You want to look at it in a pessimistic point of view. That is fine, but look at it from a positive point of view. You've got a fatal four-way type atmosphere. The champion can lose without even being pinned. It could be, you could have Amanda Fox. Boom, she gets kicked in the face by Cruz. She gets kicked in the face by this guy. Kicked in the face by that guy. Kicked in the face by this guy. And then...
a lot of face kicking going on.
Yes, and then your guy comes in and takes the pinfall.
Well, it's a cheap victory. I think when it comes to a championship bout, people want to see the two top guys go at it. Now, again, a four-way, there are advantages because you do not have to pin the champion. But that also leaves room for a controversial ending or a controversial decision. Whereas when you have the ref and just your competitors, it's pretty straightforward and there's few questions asked after the bell is rung. But without being completely biased, I do want to talk about the performance of those involved in the junior heavyweight division, especially the most recent four-way, or the more recent four-way that happened. Damian is showing that he truly is and could be considered a mixed martial artist. With the strikes that he provides, the types of holes that he can get in at any time, I think it's proven that he's got somewhat of a track record altering this typical collar to elbow grappling or what have you.
I take nothing away from him. He's got a lethal kick and he's, I know that's your guy. Take nothing away from him, but yet he has not been able to get the job done. As we saw, Ricky Medeiros couldn't get the job done himself, and we have a new junior heavyweight champion in Billy Ware.
Billy Ware is something exciting to watch, folks, because he's another one. You don't know what's going to happen next. Ricky, not trying to knock the guy, but he's seen better days. And it's going to be interesting to see what he can pull out of his spirit to possibly regain that title, considering the fact that others are also looking after that gold.
Well, let me cut you off right there. We're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be right back in 2 and 2.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we're here to talk more tag team action with a tag team specialist himself. This guy's no stranger to it. We watched the Epidemic face off against the Old School Icons. You're talking about two very differently matched tag teams. The OSI, they tower over the Epidemic in size, in weight, its sheer power and brawn versus speed, agility, and, well, a little bit of craftiness, which we have seen out of the Epidemic. Wouldn't you agree?
And, you know, I think the big difference maker now is having Crimson Alchemia by their side. Certainly the brains behind the brawn.
Sure.
I know you spoke of OSI being the bigger and stronger of the team. The Epidemic, no slouches in their own right. And Crimson is always dangerous, as he's proven in the past. OSI, though, picking up another loss, causing a bit of concern, I'm sure, within their camp.
Right.
Dante nursing that knee injury, still not 100%. Personally, my opinion, he rushed back way too soon. I know as of recent we've had him. He's been on the shelf now, missing out on the hype taping on the 26th.
Right.
But obviously, we wish him well and speedy recovery. but as long as you're out, the influence still reigns number one.
Well, you mentioned the presence of Crimson Alchemia, a contributing factor to the OSI's not being up to snuff could be Dante's knee. I mean, let's face it, when your partner isn't fully capable physically, there's only so much you can get done. But now we're talking about another element here. We're talking about the mind control, some of the cerebral games that Crimson has been known to play in the past. You're talking about two guys, Sean Leader and Tom Billington, that have seemingly out of nowhere, joined forces. And Tom, he's an animal, and one who's apparently on the wagon.
Certainly a side of Tom that I haven't seen in quite some time. I know you're not too privy to RWA history as of 5 years ago. I don't want to bring up his past personas and how far off the deep end he has gone in the past. I know it seems sort of out of nowhere, but I've got the scoop. I really do. And from what I understand, this all stems from, remember, Leader taking some time off for some personal reason, and myself, among others, had their wisecrack remarks about him maybe having his male parts in his lady's bag.
Sean Leader, I got 99 problems and a bitch ain't one.
That weighed heavily on his mind, from what I understand.
Right.
Now you also remember Tom Billington as well.
He's a party animal, fun-loving kind of guy.
Well, he was out for an injury. Not one person except Jack Connor's mother wished him well in a speedy recovery. Jack Connor's mother.
Who could potentially take on anyone in the RWA, from what I understand.
I believe it. I believe it. She certainly can. Don't mess with her.
Mm-mm.
So there's a certain bit of resentment towards everybody on the roster, I suppose. And Crimson, being the stand-up individual that he is, I guess brought this to light for them. And it's not so much the brainwashing that we are used to, other than enlightening them to what has happened, and that maybe he would stand by them more so than the others that have turned their backs on them.
Enlightenment from a potentially dark prince. This is interesting, folks. As you know, anything is possible here at the Renegade Wrestling Alliance.
I just got a message on here. We are on Facebook taking your messages. Not that you're seeing this and you can't do anything about it. This is all pre-recorded. But Clem Cadiddlehopper writes in and says, "Hey guys, why wasn't I invited?" Sorry, Clem. Members only, I guess. Anyway, here's a subject I see written down that's near and dear to my heart: the influence in the Hollywood Balls. They locked it up at the RWA Hype Tickers show on May 12th, and it didn't turn out the way I would have liked it, but still an impressive match nonetheless.
Right. Now, I wasn't there for the entire thing. I actually had to leave early. There were other types of action that I had to record. Simply wrestling action, folks. I don't start thinking in the gutter here. But the biggest question I have, and that's for you, T. Phoenix, were you able to keep your pants on during the match?
Well, it so happens, no, I could not.
Drat.
Referee Steve Mosher, he helped me out with that one. I was just, simply complaining to him that he counted too fast. I was trying to get him to help me up because I had just been speared in half by Cipriano Abruzzi, and turned my back on him for 1 second, and he pantsed me. And I had the drawstring tied tight too.
Right.
He may be a little guy, but he's strong.
Which is why you asked him, of all people, to help you up.
Can't count on my partner to do it. He was hurt too. Referee Steve Mosher, he was still left standing after the Hollywood Balls cheated and had their way with us.
Let's talk more about the Hollywood Balls.
There was an illegal guy in the ring, okay?
Who was this illegal person? Fill me in, because all of this is news to me.
Cipriano Abruzzi was the illegal guy.
So he
and how many people are supposed to be pinning you at a time? One. They both pinned me. They both. You want to talk about management problems? How was that allowed? Exactly. Let's talk about the Hollywood Balls. What about them? They're on a roll. Can't deny that.
And it's interesting to see how two stocky individuals like themselves, I mean, you know, some of the bigger powerhouses here at the RWA, singles competition really wasn't working out for either of them very much. They took a somewhat of an odd interest in one another, but it turned out to be quite a profitable venture here. And if you ask me, now this is just speculation here, I could be, you know, maybe just shooting a little too far. I feel as though that they are the biggest contenders that could go up against the movement.
It took some time. They didn't necessarily gel all together at once. They had some outings where they really didn't see eye to eye to each other, and they wrestled the likes of OSI. And I always believed that you can actually, I mean, I'm not the only one. I mean, even Clem Kadiddlehopper, who was continuing to write in here, no, I'm sorry, you cannot be part of the show. Even he has said on commentary, if these guys can get on the same page, they will be a force to reckon with. And as we've seen, it has been proven true. The strength, the power, and even Cipriano Abruzzi, to his credit, has dropped considerable weight. And now you add the element of speed in there. And I hate to agree, but you are right. And they are probably the most formidable team in RWA as far as the tag team championship goes. However, there's still the influence.
There is,
and they robbed us. And you will not hear the end of this, Cipriano Abruzzi and Chris Dozer and Manny Souza. You have not heard the last of us.
I would suggest sending an email to our director of competition.
I'm going to do so now.
But he doesn't answer them back.
I'm on Facebook.
Along with voicemails, along with phone calls. Bill, I'm still waiting to hear from you. I apologize, folks. I kind of lost my...
You are a jerk. There you go.
And that pretty much sums it all up in one nutshell. Speaking of nutshells, we had the best of the best series. It was a 7-match series up against one of our most former formidable tag teams, the Suicide Kings. They decided there was nothing else for them to do but to decide who the sole Suicide King was. And according to the series, it appears to be that the Ace is the sole surviving Suicide King. Your thoughts, T?
Well, can't say that I'm sad to see them not be a tag team anymore, because that just leaves more room at the top for me and Jason Devine. For the better part of the last 6 months, these guys have been back and forth and back and forth. And, I mean, there's been Escape the Arena matches, street fights, and they've really just taken it to each other. And for what? The right to be called the sole Suicide King. But then we find out that at stake, there's going to be a title shot for the Triple Crown Championship. And that just upped the ante that much more. And Zach Alexander and Mike Montero, they're no strangers to the ladder match. And we knew we were going to get a classic going into this one.
And boy, did we.
We were not disappointed. I think they may have fell off the ladder or delivered one of their maneuvers off the ladder at least 4 or 5 times. And my goodness, what a match. And Mike Montero indeed coming out on top. And we found out later what exactly he planned to do with that championship match, but we'll get back to that.
Well, I do want to, before we jump off topic, I do want to talk about them as a tag team. I want to talk about Balls as a tag team, because now you're talking about two succinct units, two teams that, instead of having, like, per se, a smaller guy and a larger guy, or more a tactician and a high flyer, you have two individuals in Mike Montero and Zach Alexander with similar styles and similar body types and sizes, as you do with the Hollywood Balls. So really, this is just a hypothetical question that I'm going to pop out there for everyone to kind of dwell on. What do you feel a better tag team is? Tag team partners that complement one another's weaknesses and strengths, or two of the similar style? Again, this is for you to debate, and feel free to come after us with any questions or comments. This is an interactive thing, folks. If we don't hear from you, we're just going to troll the camera.
Well, You make no mistake about it, you can't argue with the success that the Suicide Kings have had. It's really expect the unexpected when you're in there with them.
Absolutely.
And it's a very hard thing to prepare yourself for, not knowing what you're gonna get from them. Myself personally, I've always preferred the mix of the power and strength and size of one guy and the athleticism and the quick-paced movement of the other tag team partner. That's why I feel as though the likes of me and Jason Devine have worked so well. Hanson and I, Dunn and I, JT Dunn's name mentioned on public access. Doesn't happen too often, but it happened here today. And that was my preference, but obviously, like I said, you cannot argue with the success the Suicide Kings have had. Possibly this year's RWA Tag Team of the Year. There are many candidates, but they are, here's a little spoiler, they are almost neck and neck with another team. It's going to be a close race. We'll see how it all turns out.
For the record, me personally, I have yet to make any of my votes, and according to the calendar, there are only 2 days left. Now, from when this show will air as compared to when it's taped, obviously there's a lag of time, but if you haven't voted yet and you're watching this in the mid of June, the boat has since sailed off. Last but not least, a man whose stock continues to rise in the RWA and in all of the Southern New England independent wrestling promotions. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard enough of this man, but maybe you haven't heard quite enough. Antonio Atama. He made his appearance at RWA Hype. He said what he had to say. He felt as though he's a little too pretty for a cage, and I disagree. I like to see people scrap it out in a big old steel box. What do you say?
Well, I mean, Antonio Atama is a friend of mine. And
he bought you a nice country home out in like the Berkshires as of recently.
Yes, he did. Video soon to follow in the coming weeks. I can't thank you enough for that, sir. But
generous fellow, generous fellow.
You know, like you said, his plane came in early. His private jet came in early. Stopped by Ticker Sports Grill to say his hellos to myself, Mr. Devine, and the cool crowd. Before going on to Haverhill, Massachusetts, to simply outwit and destroy Jose Perez. And you're right, the kid's he's got the look, he's got the knowledge, and he's going to be, if you can imagine, an even bigger star in the years to come than he already is now. Buy stock in Antonio Atama now, because who knows, 30 seconds from now, you may not be able to. It may be out of your price range.
I mean, look what happened with Facebook. They went public and they tanked. So buy the stock while it's private. Going back to some of that action that you were talking about, I can't say that he destroyed Jose Perez. I was there personally alongside Leonardo Chambers. We were calling the action, and outwitted him, yes. And I think essentially what the deciding factor was, he took Jose out of his element. Jose is a very straight-up kind of guy. He's a tactician. That's not a lot of frills, not a lot of fancy stuff. Get in there, mix it up, you know, ground and pound. Atama, he played with his head. He was in and out of the ring, fully abusing the 9 seconds that you have available to you in a 10 count. But what really, you know, dug Jose into his own grave is bringing a weapon into the match. He should not have hit Atama with that chain. Now, granted, referee Tuttle was questioned after the fact, and he said no comment. I don't blame him. You know, I saw it firsthand. Jose tried playing dirty pool, and Atama wasn't having it. So we'll see. We'll see how both of them possibly fare if they could decide to actually get into the cage. I want to see that happen. Atama says it's not happening. I'm going to push for it. And I hope you don't take that personally, Antonio. It's just a spectacle that I believe the fans deserve to see.
Well, speaking of the steel cage, there was a poll on Facebook asking, who would you like to see in a steel cage? It may not be Atama and Perez, but let me ask you this question. Who would you like to see if it isn't Jose Perez and Antonio Atama?
Well, now, all right, well, that's a tough one. I did not expect that one at all.
The choices were Navina Riley and Amanda Fox. There's a lot of history there. The movement and student body,
For personal reasons, I would like to see both Navina Riley and Amanda Fox in their own cage. However, for a cage match, I'd like to see you, big man. I'd like to see you in the cage. Who up against, I'm not quite sure. But you seem to have quite enough padding around you to protect yourself from any violent injuries or what have you.
Well, the option given was myself versus J.P. Hansen, Jimmy Gaga, whatever you want to call him. I know he doesn't think there's any connection between the two, but James Hansen, I'm on to you. So,
I'm not touching that.
me, Hansen, cage. If you've seen what we've done in the past, it borders on just insanely brutal. Now you're going to lock two of us inside a steel cage. There's only one way for that to end, and that's with somebody going to the hospital, getting toe tagged, and going 6 feet under. There's no other way that could possibly end that I wouldn't be satisfied, that he wouldn't be satisfied, and the fans wouldn't be satisfied. It's the way it's got to be. Do you want that? Do you want that on your conscience? I don't. The man has a beautiful daughter.
Does.
Just turned 2. I can't, in my own right, do that and have that on my conscience. So to that, I'm going to have to pass on the steel cage for much different reasons than Antonio Tama, although I totally respect Antonio Tama's reasoning. Mine is a little bit different.
All things considered, folks, there's been a lot of talk about a cage. I want to see it happen. The fans want to see it happen. I think deep down inside, the big man here wants to see it happen as well. I wouldn't sign myself up for the job, but I'm not a wrestler.
All right, we're going to take another commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
We are the Renegade Wrestling Alliance. But what is the RWA? It's hard-hitting.
He was recently named the Rookie of the Year there. Him and Jack Bonner. A nice hip toss, Jason Devine bailing out.
Fast-paced. Turned him around, sweeps the leg, quick cover, kick out. Hip toss by Corvus. Look at that! Action-packed.
Right now, James rips off Montero, catches himself. Team Phoenix, to the outside. Right in front of our fans. Alexander's in the ring, Montero's in the ring. Corvus and Phoenix, tag team champions. Here it comes! Oh, that's all 3 members of the other team. Here it comes! Incoming! Oh my God!
Entertainment.
Well, here I am for the first time in Sound City, Smithfield, Rhode Island.
For the whole family.
So what do you think of it so far?
I think it's fun. It's exciting.
Have you ever watched RWA before?
This is my first time.
All right, so what do you thought about RWA so far?
Oh, it's great. It's an awesome experience.
Excellent.
I think it's fantastic. I think the boys are having a lot of fun. It's a great time.
And when we have another live show, will you definitely come back?
Sure will.
You know this show? It's like wicked awesome.
It
you know
is?
Dante's winning the bells, smashing people. It is awesome.
It's awesome. And what do you think about the show?
It's awesome. That he was hitting people. And I love it.
It was amazing.
All right. Do you plan on coming back?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
The show was great. Had a lot of good matches, good action. All around, one of the better shows I've been to in my life.
All right. Is this definitely the type of promotion you will definitely come and watch us again?
Oh, absolutely. Bring friends, everything.
And we mention all of our proceeds from our shows go to various charities throughout Rhode Island and New England.
Hi, I'm Dean Ambrose. And if you're wondering if you should believe the hype, yeah, you should.
Bring it! I'm still right here undefeated. Say whatever you want. Really don't mean anything. Bring it! Bring it! If there's no fear, let me see it. There is nothing you got that will ever get to me.
It's not about you. It's not even about us. It's about legacy. It's about what we choose to leave behind for future generations.
Hello, viewers from home, and welcome back. It is the Working Class Hero alongside the Natural Truth, and we're here to give you the skinny as to what's been going on here at the RWA. But before we go into more recent action, I do want to speculate. I want to throw a couple feelers out there. We haven't seen much from our hardcore champion, Rob Marsh. Not to say that he's a slacker by any means. From what I've heard, he's been causing all kinds of havoc up at the northern section of New England. He has been in Maine. I don't know the name of the promotions.
Actually, it's Intergalactic Wrestling.
Intergalactic. Rob, you're getting hardcore championships all over the place. And T, you saw some of the pictures from his most recent hardcore event. Why don't you share with the viewers?
Boy, I did see it. It was a bloody affair, as you would imagine. There were thumbtacks, there was glass, there was barbed wire, there was light tubes, and
those are the worst.
And there were, I believe, there was even ladders, and there was somebody. I'm trying to remember. Somebody. It was a spare tire laid on the floor outside with light tubes across it, and there was a suplex onto it. As if it's not bad enough landing on the light tubes, you add a tire into the mix. And it has been some time since we've seen Rob Marsh here down to the RWA, and I know you have somebody in mind as a contender for that hardcore championship. I just know that besides this person you have in mind, there aren't too many other people lining up for a shot at the hardcore championship, because Rob Marsh, well, he's just plain crazy.
He's one of the few people I know that can actually have a hardcore match and it still be hardcore without using any weapons. That's no BS, that's no catchphrase or some corny crap. That's legitimate, folks. Look into the footage. And I know right now he's got things tied up with the Terror and Crimson Alchemia, but personally I would love to see the Freak Show take on the Underground Assassin. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into more relevant, more recent action. Speaking of up-and-coming rising stars, what more could we say about Mr. Awesome, Mike Grassa? I mean, you want to talk about someone who has jumped in leaps and bounds since starting with us. I mean, as of recently, he's gone up against not one, but in the past, he's gone up against 2 Triple Crown champions, the most recent being Revelation Chris Sterling. You've been in the ring with Rev. So give us a little bit of insight as to maybe how you would have locked up with that guy and how Mike Grassa handled his.
Me, from a personal standpoint, when you're in there with Revelation Chris Sterling, prepare for an ass kicking. Take nothing away from the guy, incredible champion, hard-hitting son of a gun. You have to be in there and be mentally prepared to know you are going to get an ass kicking, and you have to somehow outlast him and have a few tricks up your sleeve and be able to come out on top. Grassa, not even Grassa. What I caught on to was how Revelation proceeded with caution against Mike Grassa. And if you watch the tape back, you'll see the match, it started off very slow. And that told me that Revelation was not taking Mike Grassa for granted. And as you've seen in matches in the past where Mike Grassa's picked up a win over the investment Antonio Atama, that it's been Grassa somewhat outsmarting his opponents. And I think, I've been in the ring with Mike Grassa, and he can take a butt kicking. So I think Revelation knew what he was getting into. I think Revelation knew that Grasso was a tough kid, more than capable of picking up the win. And, in fact, if you watch, he almost did if it wasn't for Rev's ring awareness and being able to get his foot on the bottom rope.
Well, that's where experience is just going to shine brighter than anything else. When you're talking about the Revelation Chris Sterling, the image that I have in mind is that of a large individual who is also a pure wrestler. A lot of guys that have, size on their side, they tend to be more brawlers. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shots here, but you, sir, are probably one of the toughest brawlers here in the RWA. When you have Sterling, you have to keep in mind that this is a man that could put you in a submission. He can make you tap. And Grasso, even though he's not small, and yes, he's young, he's also has the outlook and the techniques of a pure wrestler. I think it was a great match. I think it was very well matched up, very even, and as far as technique is concerned. I didn't pick up the same hesitation from Sterling that you did, but you would have a lot more ring presence than I would, sir.
You think so?
A little?
I know so. A little bit. But, the story didn't end there. Because after Revelation was able to overcome the young man, Mike Grasso, Mike Montero, what we thought was going to be another championship match, he went down the path less traveled, so to speak.
Congratulations on your successful title defense, Chris. But now I gotta ask you a question. Do you remember what you said to me the last time we spoke?
To get real on you, I told you that belt was going to be in your hands. I told you to believe in yourself, and you did it. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
And one day, man. Anytime.
I know that.
Well, I say, hello time, hello place. Now see, Chris, you got it all wrong. You see, I'm not out here to do the same old cookie cutter money in the bank cash in like guys past. See, the Ace is a trendsetter, so I'm going to do you one better. Because see, for the first time ever, these people are going to see the Ace, Mike Montero, versus the Revelation Chris Sterling for the Triple Crown Championship at Legacy 5. But I'm not going out there alone. Because you see, it's not just my destiny to main event Legacy, it's someone else's destiny.
Come to find out, I had another heart attack and had to have another surgery. 7 months away, the surgery went fine, but there could be another problem. But I pushed, they wanted me to go for all these tests, but I pushed those tests back until August because I have been involved in all the legacies. And Legacy 5, I figure, I want at least, if God forbid something bad happens, I at least want one more legacy. Let me tell you something. When I first came to the RWA, one of the young gentlemen that got me going and really got me pumped in this business was Mike Montero. And he's always wanted me to be a manager. And now he's got this chance. And when he asked me, it made me definitely say, whatever's going on, I'm going to make it for one more legacy. And I'm going to bring Mike to what he's wanted, the RWA Triple Crown Championship. I hope there's more legacies for me to come, but if not, I want to thank you all for one of the greatest moments of my life the last 5 years, being part of this great company. Say good luck to these two guys in what should be one hell of a match.
Folks, if you haven't already bought your tickets, you can contact us at rwawrestling.net, email an inquiry, or get a hold of some of your favorite RWA wrestlers. Tickets are for sale, 10 for adults, 5 for children 12 and under, and if they're 2 and under, bring them in for free.
Because I'm a nice guy like that. And if you want a special VIP package, yes, there's still some available. You get a front row seat. You get a DVD of Dynasty from this past April. I was looking to him for help, and he wasn't there. And you get a T-shirt as well. So if you'd like that sort of VIP treatment, contact us. It's actually contact at rwawrestling.net. You can send an email request, and we'll get right back to you. Somebody will.
I won't. Not me. I'm not the webmaster.
Bill Victor won't, right?
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there. Okay, where will we go from here? Mike Montero, Revelation, Chris Sterling. Your predictions for Legacy?
You know, I don't know what to expect as per usual. It seems to be a common theme, but anything's possible at the Renegade Wrestling Alliance. There's such a size difference between the two of them. And I know it's maybe narrow-minded of me to think this, but I don't believe that the Ace has enough body mass to pin the Revelation. Plain and simple. I think that's what it's going to boil down to.
It's not the first time Mike Montero would have to overcome a size difference. Hell, he's been doing it his entire career here and anywhere else he goes. Am I picking Montero to win it? Am I picking Revelation to win it? I'm not entirely sure myself. I just know Montero well enough not to count him out. He's got the heart of a champion.
Absolutely.
He could pull it off. And the difference maker, as we saw, Mr. Abruzzi will be in his corner. Mr. Abruzzi went 4 for 4 last year and picked up 4 different championships all in the same night. That's nothing to play around with. His experience is the difference maker in this match.
Mr. Abruzzi's experience, or Mike's?
Mr. Abruzzi's.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do want to make one thing clear, folks. I'm not selling Mike Montero short by any means. He does have the heart of a champion. He has unparalleled work ethic. If you want to talk about someone who truly dedicates himself to their craft, that's Mike through and through. But again, my prediction is that sheer power and brute strength will overcome. But that remains to be seen, folks, and that will be seen by you, this guy, myself, and everyone else involved Friday, July 6th at the William H. Thayer Arena, 975 Sandy Lane, Warwick, Rhode Island. Be sure to pick up your tickets, folks. It will be an event to be remembered. Moving right along.
Moving right along. Yeah, well, we're almost done for this week's episode. I know. Don't worry.
Really?
What?
We're already done?
Yeah. Wow. We'll go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and give you.
I'm disappointed.
Well, disappointment is the story of your life.
According to my exes, it is. In any event,
we're gonna go ahead and give you a quick preview of next week's show. Highlight recap of what happens from the May 26th edition of RWA Hype live from Tickers. We're going to have Ricky Medeiros. He's going to get his rematch against Billy Ware for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. And what I'm sure will be a high-flying affair, to say the least.
Absolutely. Also in store is another 4-way dance for the television title, which will involve Amanda Fox, Chris Cruz, Zach Alexander, and the sure shot, Damian Black.
The sure shot, that's what we're calling him now? You just make that up?
Yeah.
The sure shot. I've seen that somewhere before.
I'm an on-the-fly kind
Keep
of
talking.
guy.
I'm going to Google that.
You would.
The sure shot. That's... Hold on. I'm going to Google that. Go ahead. Talk.
Are you done? Okay, good. Speaking of the television title, Jimmy Gaga and Mike Grasso will be going head-to-head to see who the #1 contender is for that title. As of recent, there's been a lot of spotlight put onto that belt, and, well, there's a lot more than just a couple of guys going after it. Also, you can expect to hear us talking about and see footage from Len Oddity going up against the Irish Warrior.
Len Oddity.
Len
you believe it?
Oddity.
Making moves. RWA. Bringing in the oddball himself.
Absolutely.
Tattooed ugly, Len Oddity. And man, oh man, what are we in for now? You talk about Rob Marsh being a psycho? Well, Len Oddity, that's a whole different ball game.
You definitely dropped an F-bomb on cable TV, on public access nonetheless. And you thought I was going to be the human resources issue for this one. Folks, highlights from all of those matches will be up, as well as highlights from the GCW inaugural brawl, where RWA will be present with cameras and a few of our competitors as well.
Oh yes, and congratulations on saying inaugural brawl better than I did, because I butchered it in the voiceovers that I do out of my goodness of my heart.
Inaugural
brawl.
See, you got it. Yes! Yes! T. Phoenix actually graduated from elementary school. He's hooked on phonics. Folks, that's been enough antics and shenanigans and tomfoolery for this edition of Chewing the Fat, but make sure to stay tuned for the next one, because not only are we going to have highlights from those matches that we talked about, as per usual, anything is possible here at the Renegade Wrestling Alliance. If you don't want to miss any action, stay tuned. And be sure to check out all of our footage at youtube.com/TheRWA4
Well, I guess that wraps it up. I guess this is going to be a continuous thing between you and I, and, well, I guess I'll see you next week.
What a jerk. We'll see you soon, folks.
I understand, Doc. Listen, I'll let you do just this once. You promise to go to bed. You promise?
I promise. If you allow me to do this one announcement, I'll go to bed and I won't cause any more problems. I promise you.
Don't bother these nice people in the parking lot. Don't try to blow anybody's windows. Just make the announcement and get it done, right? You good with this?
Fine by me. Hey, fine by me. It's only one time I have a surprise for you. Refereeing this bout will be no one other than Coach Mancuso.
All right, Doc. Thank you. Go to bed. Yeah, just go.